William once again made Harry bitterly see the noble title lost. This will not go down well in Montecito. Today, separate sources have confirmed that William is supposed to take over command of Harry's old army unit after a reshuffling of the royal family's military appointments by the king. His Majesty has decided to appoint William, his oldest son, as Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps, in which Harry served as an Apache helicopter pilot in Afghanistan. And he's also going to grant Catherine, the Princess of Wales, 3 new roles. And all this is happening as the first anniversary of the late Queen's death comes closer. King Charles is expected to honor the occasion quietly and privately at Balmoral, and William and Catherine reportedly are going to lead the tributes to the late monarch. Joe Little is the managing editor of Majesty magazine, and he said that it was quite feasible that if Harry had not walked away from life as a working royal, something that resulted in him being stripped of his honorary military appointments, then maybe he would have received the title. He said, had Harry still been around, he might well have had more appointments going his way. The men in gray made Harry look like he had this cheerful, funny personality, and they did a great job of covering up all his missteps. And now just look at him. There's nobody looking out for him. His arrogant, pathetic character has really been laid bare for all to see. Now, unlike his brother Harry, with 156 search and rescue missions and 149 people saved, everybody knows for sure that William earned his pilot's rating. There are so many people that he airlifted to safety. On the other hand, Harry's real attitude towards the forces was obvious when he decided to ditch a memorial event for murdered Marines so that he could go off and try to get some jobs for Meghan Markle with the Disney CEO. He was getting her some voiceover work at the Lion King premiere, and also I guess he just had to hang out with stars like Beyonce and Jay-Z. He just uses those people to make himself look better, and also he thinks he's going to get some sympathy for himself by association. Where would Meghan and Harry be at this point if it weren't for those royal titles? Boy, have they exploited them. I mean, they have used and abused those titles for their own gain with their unofficial pseudo-royal behavior. And really, it is the responsibility of the UK government to change the constitution so that then their titles can be taken away. That way, they can't be an embarrassment to the royal family and the country anymore. The fact is, Harry and his children, if they're real, could have been significant people in history. They could have made a real difference in the world. But no, that was not to be. Instead, because of Harry and Meghan's behavior, history is always going to be unkind to them, and rightly so. Harry has also thrown away his kids' heritage and place in history. That is what happens, though, when you betray your queen and your country. Harry, you made her final years an absolute nightmare. I'm sorry, but Harry deserves every bit of humiliation that comes his way. So good job, King Charles. I'm glad that these appointments are going to people who deserve them, to loyal, hard-working royals who are going to do a great job representing the UK. And while they're already removing people from positions and updating the royal website, how about considering some of those titles and lines of succession and getting this last little bit cleaned up to make everybody happy? When talking about Harry's book Spare, King Charles said that any criticism of Queen Camilla was a red line that must not be crossed. Well, Harry did go after her viciously, and I think he took things too far, and now he's paying the price. His Majesty is thinking about his legacy and people he knows he can trust to uphold the values of the monarchy in the future. So it looks like the king is finally closing the door in the faces of Meghan and Harry. They are being pushed out, and I don't think there's any way for them to come back in. The website changes are the first indication that other changes are going to come. Did anybody notice that a whole new section on the law of royal succession and titles was also added? So it clarifies the rules and the role that Parliament plays in all of it. And I'm guessing that section was not there until recently. The removal of HRH from the site and the palace not publicly acknowledging Meghan's birthday are obvious signs that things have changed. I think the palace is getting ready to do something big. I at least hope so. The palace has been pandering to the two of them for way too long now. The bill that is making its way through the Commons is going to be passed into an Act of Parliament soon enough, and boy, that cannot come quickly enough. Another thing is, let's think about how big the US is. How many people live in the US? Well, I can guarantee you, all my friends in Britain, that Harry and Meghan are nobodies here. We've got thousands of media outlets. We've got TV stations, newspapers, radio, both FM and AM. We've got local stations, national stations. We've got big newspapers, local newspapers. The list goes on and on. Now, approximately 1 to 2% of those might mention the UK and the royal family, and I'm being generous in that figure. Now, I love my country and I'm proud to be an American, but I'll be the first to admit we've got some idiots here. We've got some people who don't even know the name of our president or their governor, some people who believe the UK still has a queen. Meghan and Harry are not important in the US, not even among the big people in Hollywood. They're trying to convince us that everybody cares about them, but they're lying. You need to see the forest instead of looking at the trees. Only a few of us even care about royal news, and it's really just a hobby. So please do not believe the hype that Meghan and Harry's PR people are putting out. The fact is, Harry is not very intelligent, and so emotional problems are difficult for him to manage. Intelligence and emotional intelligence are the big things we need to consider here. Growing up, Harry was reportedly a handful. He didn't have good control of his emotions. He was always having these little temper tantrums and pitching fits to get his way, stuff like that. I mean, he was a difficult child. God rest her soul, Diana also had her own problems, and I'm sure that she did pass some of that along to Harry. It seems like he is still heavily influenced by his memories of her. The anger and the alienation was put into overdrive after Diana passed away. That explains Harry's wild times in London clubs with all the drugs and indulgences all around. He was quite a hedonist. For Harry, emotional problems of any type would be a painful event, with violence, cocaine, and alcohol to try to numb the pain. And his lack of emotional maturity was obvious in the tabloids. Then he met Meghan, and it seems like it gave him a little bit of peace. Although I don't really have any proof of that, because if you look at his face when he's around Meghan, he doesn't look like he feels at peace. I'm hardly surprised, though, at Harry's behavior. I mean, the security problems, the whining that has been reported. I have seen the same thing in a family member of mine, somebody who is smart enough to land in the middle of consequences, but simply isn't smart enough to look first before they take a big leap. And these issues seem to really get worse during the most inconvenient times. Harry's face and gestures during the Jubilee service made him look like a little brat, which certainly doesn't help his image as a prince. I just think he cannot control himself, and it's really a shame. I mean, if he tries, he can be charming, maybe a little bit dim, but when he's himself, he's funny, he seems truly sweet. We could see a whole spectrum of emotions at the late Queen's funeral that he definitely had a difficult time trying to hide. Now, that smirk on Meghan's face told me all I needed to know about that woman. The security thing is just being done to try to cover up his activities, and that's exactly what they did all through his teenage years. His security detail, boy, did they have to do a lot of work. They had to cover up so much stuff. Apparently, they had to pay a bunch of people off, etc., and that is what he wanted. Otherwise, his bad habits would be out there for the whole world to see. It is related to mental illness and jealousy, but mostly mental illness. Harry needs to be put somewhere where he can make it on his own. I think Harry needs to be somewhere where people really can understand him, and I don't think California is the place for him. And you, what do you think about Harry? Please continue to discuss him and Meghan with us below in the comments. If you think my video is useful, don't be afraid to like and share it with your friends and family members who would like it anytime you want. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.